Oh, America. The US has a mixed history with public transportation systems, with probably the world's biggest internal discrepancy between the best system and the worst system. And over the years, I have been very critical of a lot of American transit systems and projects. But in today's video, I'm putting that aside, because I'm going to talk about the changes to America's public transportation systems that actually get me excited, and why there's still lots of hope for a transit-oriented America. When it comes to transit advocacy, there's this sort of paradox of positivity. If you're too positive and content with the system as it stands today, it might not improve a ton in the future, and it might even decline if politicians believe that resources would be better used elsewhere, since people are happy with transit today. And since most of the world's public transit systems have a long way to go before they meet everyone's needs, it's hard not to be critical. But it's important to be nuanced with your criticism and balance that out with positivity, whether you be an activist or a transit YouTuber like myself, someone working at a transit agency, or just a regular old person who relies on transit. Because a lot of positive things have happened in the last decade or so that have made transit systems better and have improved real people's lives. This isn't about sweeping problems that are very real under the rug, but about appreciating how far things have come and talking about the positive change that can come in the future. Not just because being negative all the time is really bad for your mental health, but also because if all hope was lost for transit in North America, then I wouldn't bother making these videos in the first place. Zooming in on one specific case, one of the most common subjects of criticism in my videos are the LRT networks of Portland and Seattle, when contrasted with the Vancouver SkyTrain. And while I stand by my belief that Vancouver has done better TOD and provides better service and thus has seen more ridership, you can be glass half full about literally anything. And there's a lot to be positive about in the Pacific Northwest, even if things aren't perfect. They never are. Portland, for example, has in the span of a few decades built a pretty impressive rail network that spans most of the major destinations in the city and metro area. It also has pleasant design and a lot of good quality of life features that you would look for in a transit system anywhere in the world, like good wayfinding. There's even been talk about finally connecting the system to Vancouver, Washington, and building a downtown tunnel that would transform the system and make it much faster, which is kind of its biggest problem today. Even if those projects don't happen for another 10 years, the fact that we're talking about them today opens up the potential to do them in the future, and that's positive. Seattle is doing a massive transit expansion of its own, which is building a light rail network that will be faster and higher capacity than Portland's, and it will actually be one of the largest rapid transit systems in North America, tying together the entire Puget Sound region. And all of that rail will be augmented by a network of high-quality bus and BRT services. And the big ridership gains Seattle has already seen with the projects it's already implemented and the service it's already started to run shows that it's on the right track to improve transit ridership and cut greenhouse gas emissions in the long term. So glass half full, the northwestern US has and is building out new rapid transit systems, and these systems have been successful enough that even projects like high-speed rail are being seriously discussed. And some of the highest ridership gains in the country have been seen in places like Seattle. Across the entire US, transit systems are also seeing brand new rolling stock, with many systems already or set to get almost entirely new fleets of trains, from BART to Washington Metro to Caltrain. Even Amtrak is more or less replacing its entire fleet of trains on its most heavily used routes, and its long-distance routes, which are particularly special, are also going to be getting new trains. These beautiful new trains from Siemens, which are being seen all across North America, have way better amenities, but also aesthetics than older trains in North America, which will probably help turn the page on the idea of trains as an outdated form of transportation, even on long-distance journeys. At the same time, lovely new trains for San Francisco and Atlanta and Dallas are being made by Swiss manufacturer Stadler, famed for their high-quality trains, which has opened a factory in the United States, meaning that there will probably be many more nice trains coming out of Utah in the next 10 to 20 years. And these improvements extend to legacy systems. The New York City subway and a few other systems are finally moving forward with open gangway train designs. And New York's newest trains, which look both incredibly 2023 but also incredibly New York, well, they have incredible digital wayfinding inside them that 10 years ago you pretty much couldn't find anywhere in the world outside of Japan. That's on top of new CBTC signaling, which is rolling out on more and more subway track and subway systems across the country every single year. Even Philadelphia is getting some of that modernization love, as it's ordered an entirely new fleet of 100% low-floor trams from Alstom to replace those operating on its existing trolley system. All of these new trains are transformative for riders and the experience of using American transit from the second they get onto the rails. And they're often taking the US from being a laggard to having some of the best rolling stock out there in one fell swoop. Small things have changed quickly too. 10 years ago, you were just starting to be able to get smart cards on most transit systems. And these days, on many of the largest transit systems, you can already pay with credit or debit. Despite not being discussed, that provides many of the same benefits as a nationally integrated fare card like you see in a country like the Netherlands, but with a card that everyone, even people who don't regularly use transit, already has in their pocket. Transit is also being surrounded by dense housing with less parking across the US. Density matters a ton, and these types of changes are the type of thing that pushes more and more people onto transit systems every year, forcing the transit systems to run more service and thus attracting even more riders. At the same time, the less people who drive or just depend on driving, the more the balance of political power on key mobility and urban issues, from bike lanes to road tolling, shifts in the favor of public transit. And the big things are happening too. Mainline rail electrification is not rolling out nearly quickly enough, but major projects on the Peninsula Corridor in San Francisco and Denver's suburban rail network show that the US can still do these projects, and people are constantly talking about far more ambitious plans to electrify the nation. Meanwhile, plans to rebuild and duplicate the Hudson River tunnels in New York and create new tunnels under Baltimore are finally happening after decades and decades of advocacy. And these will cement and expand the Northeast Corridor's importance for decades to come. At the same time, despite its many problems, many components of California high-speed rail are slowly shifting into place, whether that be the electrification of the Peninsula Corridor in SF, or the Connect US project at LA Union Station. There are a lot of Connect US projects in the US, there are like 5 different ones. Even the line in the Central Valley inches its way forward every single year. And in the meantime, Brightline is building corridors both in Florida and in Nevada and California, which are only adding to the snowball of inevitability that is true electric American high-speed rail. The US is also finally home to transit technologies like platform gates and automated trains that have existed around the world for decades and will only become more and more common as more systems use them, implement them, and start to see the benefits, further improving safety and service levels. And key policies like the new congestion charge coming to Lower Manhattan will finally create stable transit funding streams so that some cities can start to turn off the on and off transit funding problem that the US often has, while at the same time forcing people to reconsider whether they really need to drive into one of the densest areas of the entire planet. There are also a ton of major transit projects that are finally done, from the regional connector in LA to East Side Access in New York. And while they haven't necessarily gone off without a hitch, I'm still sure they're going to be positive in the long term. But more importantly, they lay the groundwork for big, important projects in the future, which can have better planning for lower costs. And it's those future projects that get me so excited. LA is planning tons of different projects, while San Francisco is talking about a new Transbay tunnel. Austin, a city which people constantly talk about but which does not have electric rail, is finally going to get it. Meanwhile, long talked about projects like the Red Line in Baltimore, the IBX in New York, and the Roosevelt Boulevard subway in Philadelphia are all inching their way towards reality. And while perhaps not all of these projects will get done or be huge ridership successes, they move transit in the country forwards. Because the reality is, an urbanist-friendly, transit-oriented America already exists in certain cities and neighborhoods across the country, but those places are growing and becoming more numerous. Ever talked about the cycling network in Minneapolis? It's actually pretty good. Most importantly, the Overton window has shifted. Even so many of my personal conversations I've had with my cousins in America over the years have shifted from, do we really need public transportation, to what public transportation should we really be building? Or how can we overcome NIMBYism? Or how do we incorporate new, dense transit-oriented development into our existing cities? And if those discussions aren't progress, I don't know what is. Thanks for watching.